This is a Unit 8 test review over percents in financial literacy. Number 1 says 9 is 60% of what number? So we're going to go ahead and use the percent proportion for this one. 60%, the percent always goes over 100. And then 9 is, so that tells me 9 is the part, and so I'm finding the whole. All right, so to solve a proportion, I'm going to multiply 9 times 100, which is 900, and then I need to divide by 60. 60 will go into 90 once, and when I subtract, I get 30. Bring down the 0, 60 will go into 30 5 times, so my answer is 15. All right, number 2, it says the original price of a jacket is $42. The sale price is 35% off of the original price. What is the sale price of the jacket? So I could set this up with the proportion, but since I'm finding the percent of a number of the original price, I can use the shortcut on this one. So if I change my percent into a decimal, it becomes 0.35, and then I just need to multiply it times 42. So that's 10, 5 times 4 is 20, plus 1 is 21. Start with a 0, 3 times 2 is 6, 3 times 4 is 12. When I add these up, I get 1470. I need to move my decimal 2 places, so 1470. So that tells me how much money she saved on the jacket, because that is it's the 35% off. So if I want to know the sale price of the jacket, then I'm finding the new price. So I need to subtract it from 42. So if I line this up and subtract, I'm going to borrow. 10 minus 7 is 3. Bring down my decimal. Borrow again. 11 minus 4 is 7. And 3 minus 1 is 2. So the cost of the jacket should be $27.30. Number 3, Amy ate breakfast at the Monument Cafe and wanted to leave her waitress a 25% tip. Her meal cost $9.50. If Amy has $11, does she have enough money? Explain your reasoning. All right, so finding 25% of the cost is a percent shortcut. I can use the shortcut for this one because I'm finding percent of a number. So I'm going to change my percent into a decimal, so that's 0.25, and multiply it times 950. That would be 0, 25, carry your 2, 45 plus 2 is 47. Start with a 0, 0 times 2 is 0, 2 times 5 is 10, 2 times 9 is 18, plus 1 is 19, and then add those up. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 decimals, so 1, 2, 3, 4 places here. Because this is money, that 7 is going to round up because of the 5, so I'm going to leave a tip of $2.38. I want to know if she has enough money, so she's also going to have to pay for the cost of her meal, so if I add these two together, I'm comparing it to the $11. That's 8, 8, and 9 plus 2 is 11. So she actually does not have enough money to leave a 25% tip because she has only $11. So she's 88 cents over. So I would need to say that Amy does not have enough money. And then I could explain to leave a 25% tip. She would need $11.88, and she only has 11. Okay. Number 4. It says Snowflake High School's winter sports team won 85% of their games last season. If the team plays 60 games, how many games did the team lose? So we have a couple of ways we could do this. I could find 85% of the 60 games. So again, I'm finding the percent of a number, so I can use the shortcut. That would be 0 and then 30. Start with a 0, 0, 48, and add those up. That's 0, 0, 11, 5. And then move your decimal. So that tells me they won 51 games because that was the 85% was how many they won. I want to know how many they lost. So I would take the 51 and subtract it from 60, and that would give me 9. So 9 would be how many games they lost. 9 lost games. The other way you could do this is you could subtract first. So if they won 85%, then they lost 15%. right? If you just subtract 85 from 100. So you could also do 60 times 0.15 that way. That's 30. And start with a 0, 0, 6, and add those up. Leave your decimal, and you also get 9 that way too. All right, so just a couple ways you can do that. Number 5 says Paul bought a pair of jeans for $76. The next week he noticed that the price for the same price of jeans was now $59. Find the percent of change, round to the nearest whole percent. All right, so for this one, since I'm finding the percent of change, I need to remember the percent of change proportion, which is change over the original is equal to the percent over 100. All right, so to find the change, I want to know the difference between the two prices. So I'm going to subtract 76 minus 59. That's 6. 16 minus 9 is 7. 6 minus 5 is 1. That's 17. The original price is what it began as. So it started off as $76. And then I'm looking for the percent. So I'm going to cross multiply 17. Oops, you can't even see this. I apologize. All right, so to just kind of retrack what I was doing, I subtracted 76 minus 59 and got 17. This was my proportion that I was going to use, change over the original. And then the original price is 76, so I have this proportion set up. 17 times 100 is 1,700. And then I need to divide by 76. All right, so I can divide 76 into 172 times 12, 14, 15. So that would be 18. Bring down your 0. 76 will go into 182 times. Subtract 152. That's going to be 8. 7 minus 5 is 2. Add a decimal and a 0. Bring it down. 76 will go into 280. Let's say 3 times. 18, 21, 22. That would be 2. 7 minus 2 is 5. Okay. And since I'm rounding to the nearest whole percent, that's enough to round. So 3 is not more than 5, or 5 or more. So this is going to round to 22%. And then I want to decide if it's an increase or decrease. So since the price went down, 76 to 59, this is a 22% decrease. All right, number 6, I'm finding the percent of change again. So again, I need to start by subtracting 124 minus 102. And I can see the difference in these two numbers is 22. So that's going to go on top. And then the original price is what it started as. So the 102, x over 100 would be my percent over 100. And then I'm solving for the percent. So 22 times 100 is going to be 2,200. And then I need to divide by the 102. So 102 will go into 220 2 times. That would be 204. When I subtract, I'm going to get 16. Bring down the 0. 102 will go into 160 one time. When I subtract there, I'm going to get 58. So if I add a decimal and a 0, bring down the 0. 102 will go into 585 times. So that would be 510. All right, and then I'm rounding to the nearest whole percent, so I can stop. The 5 is going to round the 1 up to 2, so this one is also 22%. The price went up this time because it started at 102 and it went up to 124, so this is an increase. All right, that's percentage change. So number 7, Olivia made a circle graph to show how she spends her monthly allowance of $220. How much more does Olivia spend on entertainment than on food? So again, you have a couple ways to do this. I could find how much she spends on entertainment, and then I could find how much she spends on food, and then subtract the amount of dollars, or I could subtract the percents to start with. So 40% minus 20% tells me she spends 20% more on entertainment than food. So if I just use the 20%, I can find it that way as well. So I'm going to do a proportion for this one just because you can use the shortcut on this one, but I don't know. Sometimes I like the proportion. The whole is 220, so that goes down here, and then the part is what I'm looking for. So if I do 20 times 220, that's 0, and then start with a 0, 0, 4, 4. So this becomes 4,400. then divide by 100. It's going to be 44. So that tells me she's spending $44 more on entertainment than on food. Okay. Again, you could find 40% and 20% and subtract them. You'll get the same answer. All right. Number 8, tickets to Schlitterbahn cost $35 per person. You can get a 10% discount per person if you go with a group of 15 or more people. What would the total cost be for a group of 20 people? All right, so 20 people means I qualify for the discount. So I need to figure out what 10% off of $35 would be. So if I did 35 times, change that to a decimal, times 0.10 is 5. Oh, sorry. Starting with a 0. And then another 0, so that would be 5, and then 3, 0, 5, 3. Move my decimal over 2 places, it's 3.5. So per person, I'm going to save $3.50. So if I do $35 minus $3.50, that's going to be 0. That's 4. 10 minus 5 is 5. Bring down your decimal. 4 minus 3 is 1. All right, so with the discount, each person's going to pay $31.50. I'm going with 20 people, so if I want the total cost, then I need to multiply $31.50 times 20. All right, so if I do the 0, I'm going to get a row of zeros. Start with a 0. 2 times 0 is 0. 2 times 5 is 10. 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3. 2 times 3 is 6. Add these up. I have 1, 2 decimals, so that's going to be over here. That tells me a group of 20 people will spend $630. Okay. All right, let's keep going. Number 9 says Jackie gross wages for the year are $82,000. The federal withholding income tax amount is 3.8%. What is the amount of income tax Jackie will have to pay? All right, so I'm paying 3.8% of this amount here. So the gross is what she pays, or what she's paid before the taxes. So if I change 3.8 to percent, it's going to become 0.038. So that's what I need to multiply by. 8 times 0, it's going to give me 3 zeros, and then 8 times 2 is 16. 8 times 8 is 64, plus 1 is 65. Start with a 0, and then I'm going to get 3 zeros. 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 4 is 24. Again, I'm going to start with 2 zeros for this one, and then I'm going to have, well, it's all going to be zeros, right, because of this 0. So I don't actually need this row. I'm just going to add it up. 0, 0, 0, 6, 11, 11, and 3. There are 1, 2, 3 decimals. So I'm going to make sure I move it over 3 decimal places. So that tells me she's going to pay $3,116 in taxes, or in income tax. And that's the amount I'm trying to find. So the amount of income tax is $3,116. If they wanted to know her net wages, then I would take the $82,000 and subtract that amount, and that would tell me how much she actually gets to keep of her money. All right, number 10, it says Piper receives her biweekly paycheck from her employer. Part of her pay stub is displayed below. What amount should Piper receive after she pays 31% of her wages in income tax? So this is a very similar problem. I'm trying to find 31% of this amount here and then find that net income. So this is a shortcut one as well. I'm going to use the 5,250. There are no cents, so I'm not even going to bother with that. If I change the 31 to 0.31, I just need to multiply. 5, 2, and 5. Start with a 0, 0, 15, 7, and 15. That's 0, 5, 7, 12, 6, 1. All right, that tells me she's going to need to spend in income tax, she's going to spend $1,627.50. So to find the net income, I need to subtract those two numbers because net is what she gets to keep. I need that over here. 5,250 minus 1,627.50. That gives me 0. That's a 10. 5. It's going to be a 9. 9 minus 7 is 2. 3 minus 2 is 1. This got off. This was a 4. 12 minus 6 is 6. And 4 minus 1 is 3. Down your decimal, you end up with 3,600. Oh, I'm sorry. That should be a 4. 4 minus 2 is 2. $3,622.50. Okay, that's my net income, or her net income. Number 11, it says determine the total amount owed if Alex borrows $2,300 for 4 months with a 12% simple interest rate, round to the nearest cent if necessary. So because this is simple interest, then the formula I want to use is I equals PRT. The principal is what is borrowed, so that's going to be the $2,300. The rate is the percent as a decimal, so if I move my decimal over, that's going to be 0.12. And the time, T, is the amount of time in years. So since this is 4 months, I need to change it to a decimal. So 4 months out of 12 months is 4/12, which simplifies to 1/3. And actually, because I know 1/3 is a repeating decimal, I'm going to leave it as a fraction and just divide by 3. All right, so if I do this first part here, 2,300 times 0.12, I'm going to get 2,300. 2 times 0, 2 times 0, 2 times 3, and 2 times 4. Start with the 0, and I get 0, 0, 3, and 2. Add those up, 0, 0, 6, 7, 2, and then that's a 2 there. So that tells me that this part is 276, but then I still need to multiply it times the 1/3. Right, so over that. So that really is like 276 over 3, which just tells me to divide. So if I divide 3 into 276, 3 will go into 27 9 times, and then I'll go into 6 2 times. Okay, so that tells me the interest on the amount is $92. Let's see, what am I trying to find? I'm trying to find the total amount owed. Okay. So she doesn't just owe the interest, she also owes what she borrows. So for this one, I'm going to need to go ahead and add that amount to the interest. So if I add these up, I get $2,392 as the amount owed. There wasn't any reason to round it to the nearest cent. Okay, number 12 says Cassidy invested $6,000 in a savings account for preferred customers that earns a 5.5% simple interest rate. How long would it take her to earn $2,640 in interest? All right, so this is still simple, so I'm still using this formula, PRT. But this time I know a couple of different things. I know the interest is $2,640, so that's I. I do know the principal is $6,000. Okay, I know the rate, when I change it, is going to be 0.055, but I don't know how long it's going to take. That's what I'm solving for. So to solve this, it's just an equation. I'm going to do what I can. So I'm going to multiply 6,000 times 0.055. So that's 0.005 times 6 is 30. Start with the 0. 1, 2, 3, and then 30 again. So that's 1, 1, 1. Let's see. And then 1, 2, 3. So that's 330 right there. Times t. And then to finish solving for t, of course, I need to divide by 330 each side. All right, so now I'm going to divide 330 into 2640. And I am going to think, let's see, 8. 8 times 0 is 0. 8 times 3 is 24. Carry your 2. 8 times 3 is 24 plus 2 is 26. There we go. Okay, so t is equal to 8. And that would be in years. Time is measured in years with this formula. All right, 13. Paul creates a budget for his monthly expenses as shown in the table. Identify each item in Paul's budget as a fixed expense or a variable expense. Write F in the last column if the expense is fixed, and write V if the expense is variable. So a fixed expense is something that won't change from month to month. Variable will. So let's look. So housing, typically housing is going to be a fixed expense because you pay the same amount like in rent every month or on your mortgage every month. Utilities is going to change depending like on the weather. Like if it's really cold, you're going to pay more for heat. If it's really hot, you're going to pay more for air conditioning. So that would be variable. Gas is going to be variable. I mean, you always need it, but you never spend the same amount each time. Food would be variable because you don't really, can't really know for sure to the penny how much you're going to spend each month. Entertainment is variable because you can adjust that based on what you plan to do from month to month. Your internet bill is generally the same every month, so you have some kind of contract where you agreed to pay per month, so that would be a fixed expense. And then emergency fund is like in a savings fund, and so that's like an amount you put aside every month. So I would say that's a fixed expense as well. Okay, let's keep going. It says to use the information to answer questions 14 through 16. So Jesse calculates his net worth using the following financial statement. What is the total value of his assets? All right, so first we need to identify the assets and then we're going to find the liabilities. So assets is what you own, and liabilities, assets is what you owe. And then no, that's wrong. This is what you own, and liabilities is what you owe. Okay, so you don't own a car loan, you own a car value. Okay, so the car value is what you own of the car, so this would be your asset, and the loan would be your liability. Okay, jewelry is something you own, so that would be an asset. Your savings is yours. Your house loan is what you owe. Your cash is yours, and your loan is what you owe. Okay. So to find the assets, I'm going to add all of these up, all my A's. So 4,500, 1,500, 8,000, and 12,000. All right, so this is 0, 0. 5 plus 5 is 10. 4 plus 1 is 5. Plus 1 is 6. Plus 8 is 14. 15, 16. Carry 1. 26,000. So assets, 26,000. Liabilities is what is left. So I have 3,800, 45,000, and 24,000. That's 0, 0, 8. 3 plus 5 is 8, plus 4 is 12. 1 plus 4 is 5, plus 2 is 7. So 72,800. And then 16 says, what is Jesse's net worth? So I need to subtract these. So 72,800 minus 26,000 would give me, let's see, 12 minus 6 is 6. 6 minus 2 is 4. So this would be 46,800. But since his liabilities are more than his assets, he actually has a negative net worth, which means he owes more than he owns. So you can be in a really bad place if something happens and you need cash for something. You actually don't have enough to cover what you actually owe. So your goal is always to have a positive net worth. All right, and I'm going to stop or pause the video here and do a second part just so that it doesn't get too long. All right, see you in a minute.